Hello everyone, my name is Niels Hansen. I'm from the Combustion Research Facility at Sandia National Laboratories here in Livermore, California. This presentation is about the formation of 5-membered ring structures via reactions of ortho-benzyne. First, I would like to introduce the co-authors of this presentation. They are Thomas Bierkandt, Patrick Oßwald, Nina Gaiser, Markus Köhler, and Patrick Hemberger. Thomas, Patrick Oßwald, Nina, and Markus are from the German Aerospace Center, the DLR, in Stuttgart, Germany. Patrick Hemberger is a beamline scientist at the Swiss light source of the Paul Scherrer Institute in Villingen, Switzerland. At this point, we would also like to acknowledge the funding for this work. It's coming from the US Department of Energy, in particular through the Office of Basic Energy Sciences, and from the Helmholtz Association through a Helmholtz International Fellow Award. What you see here is the outline of this short presentation. I will give you an introduction about molecular weight growth and soot formation. In particular, I will highlight the importance of 5-membered ring structures that will become important for the ortho-benzyne chemistry we are studying here. Then I will talk about a little bit more about the benzyne chemistry and in particular about the potential energy surface and the kinetics of the ortho-benzyne plus the propargyl reaction. And then I will talk about the experiments we actually have done to support existing theory on this reaction. These are flash pyrolysis experiments in a microtubular reactor followed by PEPICO, which stands for photoelectron photoion coincidence spectroscopy. And I will talk specifically about the product identification of the C9H7 reaction products that come from this ortho-benzyne plus propargyl reactions. And I will obviously at the end give you a high-level conclusion about this work. So, when we want to understand molecular weight growth and soot formation, it is important to understand that this is a really complicated process. And I really always like to highlight this, almost iconic figure now from our colleague Hope Michelson that was published a few years ago that shows this overall process. We are starting here from fuel plus oxidizer and break it down to small radicals, and then they are building up to form smaller aromatics and larger precursors for incipient particles, and then they go on as that. We have spent a lot of time down here in the small radical chemistry regime and the small aromatics regime, and this is where we are also with this current study. We know it is governed by radical and radical molecule reactions, and we also know from a lot of previous work that resonantly stabilized radicals like propargyl C3H3, IC4H5, and C5H5, the cyclopentadienyl, can play an important role in these things. For example, here, just for the formation of the benzene ring or the phenol, you see all these different pathways that have been identified, and you see the importance of resonantly stabilized radicals as they are involved in all of these different reactions. So while the formation of the first aromatic ring, the benzene, is kind of like well understood, and I should also highlight here the importance of propargyl plus propargyl. That reaction always shows up as important in most situations. But then, like, what happens in the growth mechanisms, and there are many different diagrams available. I picked this one because I had it available on my computer, and you can see how different reactions contribute to larger and larger molecules, and they are all repetitive in nature. I would like to highlight a few things. One here is the reaction of phenol or benzene with propargyl, leading to indene or indenyl radicals. So these are like 6-membered ring fused with 5-membered rings, and I will talk about 5-membered rings on the following slide as well. And the other thing I would like to highlight is here C7H5, because we will talk about that at the very end again, leading actually to naphthalene if you add propargyl reaction. So the bottom line is propargyl is not just important for the formation of the first aromatic ring, but it's also likely to be important for the growth of larger PAHs. So what is the deal with 5-membered ring structures? Simple examples I show here, they include indene, fluorine, and naphthalene. So basically you have aromatic 5-membered ring and coupled with a 5-membered ring. These 5-membered rings are kind of important for soot formation. They can undergo ring enlargement reactions, also known as ring expansion reactions, that convert the 5-membered ring structures into 6-membered ring structures. The famous example is the reactions of cyclopentadienyl plus methyl, eventually leading to benzene plus H. Other examples are indenyl plus methyl can also lead to naphthalene, etc. So that's how 5-membered rings can contribute to PAH growth or molecular weight growth. The other thing which they are important for is they are involved in producing non-planar bowl-shaped structures like core aniline, which has been considered as a substructure and a possible precursor for fullerenes. So 5-membered rings are important for bowl-shaped things, for nanotubes, nanobowls, etc. So that's why it's really important to understand the chemistry of 5-membered rings in this overall scheme. So, and then we came across this paper that is now more than 10 years old from Matsugi and Miyoshi, who did a theoretical study of the reactions of ortho-benzyne C6H4 plus propargyl, and you can see the potential energy surface of this reaction shown here. So here you have ortho-benzyne C6H4. It's basically an aromatic ring like benzene with an extra 2 unpaired electrons. You can write it as they do here as a CC triple bond. So you have a lot of strain on this CC triple bond. You know, it wants to be linear, but it cannot be really like linear. So it's a lot of strain on it, or there's also some diradical character on the ortho-benzyne, and that will become important for the further reactions. So you basically then can kind of consider it as a radical reactions, subarialist. So you basically form these initial adducts A1 and A2, and you can see it leaves them with the radical site here on the phenyl ring. From here on, they can go through some barriers which are still submerged to form phenyl substituted propargyl radicals A3 and A4. Those are also formed, by the way, through the reactions of phenyl plus propargyl. You can form these radicals as well. But more likely, there's a lower barrier here going then to A6, where you basically have a ring closure from this end here to the radical site here on the phenyl ring. And then through another barrier, basically some hydrogen migration around the 5-membered ring, you get to the thermodynamically most stable C9H7, the indenyl radical down here. From here, you can actually also go uphill again in energy, and you can have rearrangements, and I don't want to go through all the details here. You end up with the C7H5 plus C2H2. reaction. They also did the kinetics energy calculation, and between 800 and 2400 Kelvin, you can see the overall rate here. I marked here the temperature range we will be at for most of the stuff. For the results I will present, and you can see it's dominated according to the calculation by the formation of A7, the individual radical, with a little bit of formation of these triangles, the phenyl substituted propargyl radicals, the formation of the C7H5. The uphill reactions only become important at higher temperatures, and they should not be relevant for the temperature range we are in. We then did experiments. We used flash pyrolysis in a microtubular reactor or Chen nozzle. It's basically a resistively heated silicon carbide microtubular reactor, an inner diameter of 1 millimeter, length about 35 to 40 millimeters, where we heat it up to a temperature of about 1150 Kelvin. The pressure in the tube is about 10 to 20 millibar. Basically a combination of the backing pressure and the gases going in, and the vacuum on the other end. We use benzoyl chloride as the precursor for the o-benzyne, and we use the propargyl bromide as the precursor to make propargyl radicals in higher temperatures. We use then mass spectrometry for the detection of the reaction products, and shown here is the mass spectrum after flash pyrolysis of benzoyl chloride. You see a little bit of precursor left, and you see basically a strong peak of C6H4. If you do the same for propargyl bromide, just propargyl bromide, you end up with propargyl and a little bit of C6H6 and some other stuff, which comes from further decomposition of the C6 membered wings here. Most interestingly, there's no peak at our C9H7 mass 115. It only shows up if we pyrolyze benzoyl chloride and propargyl bromide at the same time. If we have a co-flow of these two substances, then you see the precursors here, C3H3, C6H4, and you have the C9H7 reaction product formed there, as shown in this mass spectrum. The experiments, as I mentioned before, were done at the Swiss light source, at the vacuum ultraviolet beamline at the Swiss light source, where there is a PEPICO instrument available. PEPICO stands for photoelectron, photoion coincidence spectroscopy, and I don't have the time to talk in detail about the instrument. You can find the details here in these papers if you are interested in, and you see a picture of the apparatus here. It basically consists of the microtubular reactor. The output of the reactor is skimmed into a higher vacuum. That's where the molecules are ionized, and we detect both the ions and the electrons in coincidence, and that allows us to detect both the photoionization efficiency curve of the cation, but also the mass selected photoelectron spectrum, so we get a spectroscopic fingerprint of the molecular identity. Shown here is the PEPICO. Shown here is the photoionization efficiency of the propargyl after propargyl bromide pyrolysis, and you can see it matches the reference spectrum 1-to-1, and the same is true for the threshold photoelectron spectrum. Our recorded mass 39 matches perfectly the propargyl reference, so we are 100% certain we have propargyl in this reaction. It's a little bit more tricky for the C6H4 isomers, because the benzoyl chloride is not a clean precursor to make orthobenzyne exclusively. In the photoelectron spectrum, we also identified a little bit of 1,5-hexadiene 3-ene. This can be neglected because radical molecule reactions are much lower than the targeted ortho-benzyne radical reactions. Under our conditions, we were never able to find conditions where we make exclusively ortho-benzyne and propargyl at the same time. We never had a matching temperature range for that, so we had to live with the 1,5-hexadiene reaction product as well. But it didn't stop us sorry, to look at the reaction products, and that's shown here. The photoionization efficiency curve of mass 115, the C9H7 signal matches the individual almost perfectly. I mean, you can almost say it predicted here from Matsugi and Miyoshi. And if you look at the photoelectron spectrum, it's almost a one-to-one match with the individual radical reference and our measurements. If we zoom in a little bit, you can see there's a little bit of signal starting at about 7.2, 7.25 EV in this range there. And for reference, I put here these Fendu substituted propargyl radicals up here. So we are likely to have a tiny little amount of contributions from those species as well. Also, the signal is too weak that they can probably be neglected. So we are confident that we detected the individual as the predominant product, and that it agrees with the earlier predictions, as you can see here again in the kinetics diagram. So, and that brings me to the end, to the conclusions. We report the identification of the individual radical, the simplest aromatic hydrocarbon radical carrying an adjacent 5- and 6-membered ring as the major product of the ortho-benzyne reaction with propargyl. We used isomer selective, mass selected threshold photoelectron spectroscopy at the Swiss light source. We finally confirmed the theoretical predictions of Mitsugi and Miyoshi. Ortho-benzyne plays a unique role because of its biradical character. You can see that after the initial addition, it forms the radical here on the phenol ring, and that allows then for a rapid ring closure. And I should also say that kinetic modeling will need to be carried out to determine the reaction's importance and significance in combustion environments. And we thank for your attention.